Good afternoon. I'm Albert Drake, and I was just asked and invited to be a guest for the NADF and the Financial Awareness of 2025. And I think a lot of the, I guess, I don't even know what the, all the new things kind of coming this year, like with, I guess, land claims and monies being paid out by the government, and kind of just, I wanted to, kind of go over and just share some of my background, my experience first, and then kind of, not kind of give you like I'd say like financial advice, like, buy this, buy that, do that. Like I'm not here as like an advisor. I am a financial advisor, planner, but like I'm not here kind of to tell you to give you like, I guess like advice to buy this, to do that kind of stuff. It's just more of general things, just from my background, my experience, even just personal things that I have like seen throughout my career so far. And yeah, so I think I just kind of speak from myself. Also, to a disclaimer, I'm not here like representing any company, any products, and so forth. I'm just like speaking as a person, and just, from my experience being in the field, and just, even just personal things about the, life, my life, money, things like that. So yeah, I believe I have a lot to share with that. So again, like thank you for NADF for inviting me. And I think yeah, this should be, helpful in some ways. And like I said, if anyone has any questions, we'll kind of go through that. And the only things with this, I can only see my presentation. And if anyone's like on um, online with voice, just maybe you can even speak up and just say, hey, I have a question. And so the presentation is about like 5 or 6 slides, where they'll kind of go through piece by piece. And I'll like halfway through, or even like I'll have a question and answer session, and we'll kind of go from there, and then start on the second half, and then at the end we'll have a conclusion of another question and answer session. Because sometimes when I'm doing presentations to larger groups, like people like straight up away, they're like, hey, I have a question about this, because that's why they came, right? And I said a lot of times it's just like, okay, let's get the questions over with, or if they have like, issues and things, they just want a second opinion. So those are like I said, just things I can speak to, and give you some help with, and some direction. All right, I think that's pretty much it. So I'll, like I said, just I'll start here, and I'll go through my slides. And a lot of times I won't like speak to like, here's a bullet point and we'll talk about this and get to in depth. I'll just try to keep everything kind of, like I said, just kind of simple things, and use as like everyday examples and so forth. Okay, here we go. All right. So the topics, like I said, I just kind of went through my introduction, and, I wanted to talk about my future outlook, what's happening in my life, and kind of things like that, and maybe some plans and ideas. And then also too, in the real world, like the social economic outlook, what I see, like, and this is again, just me personally, what I see and speaking to, like with our dollar, our buying power, inflation, just things like that, like just work in general, and then, through the economy, through things like that. So I'll touch on that as well. And also to, just my personal side of, again, being on this side of like the financial services side, and, seeing, people I work with, like clients and so forth, and just again, these are just my own opinions. They don't represent like any company or any product or anything. So they're just, like I said, I'm just sharing, and that, some of the things I've seen and felt. And again, just, working with people. So, like I said, there are dangers and warnings of what to not to do, or where you can be sometimes and lead yourself, like with money and so forth. So, and then also to us on some positive things, I'll like touch on what should I be doing, maybe some ideas of, making some choices, making budgets, and learning, okay, like maybe just kind of settle down, don't just like be on spending. Oh yeah, I got all this money, I'm gonna do this, this, and this. And so, but yeah, so I'll just, like I said, and we'll have the questions and stuff, and again, closing things, remarks. So just moving ahead, so I'll jump into my future outlook, what lies ahead for me. So this is where I was just kind of put something together, like my plans, my ideas, like like I say, if you are like, again, just me being here was more of like, hey, if we're doing like education sessions or, as part of NADF, like, people with fortunate to get land claims, or maybe it's an inheritance, or insurance, or some kind of extra dollars. You're not like, okay, I got a decent size check here, I'm like, what am I going to do with it? So this is kind of where this all fits in. And like, again, people being 18 to 60 to 70, like you can be in different types of situations, or so this is where I'll just touch on this side. If you can, like I say, see my slideshow, it's just, my plans, my ideas, again, like what's happened so far. So like some people might be like 18, just finishing school or going to school, or what should I do? So that's kind of where, like I said, there's a lot of things like vast, like from, you're young or older, and like, um, a lot of that stuff. So like even I'd say just again, budgeting, maybe like finding employment, like, or retiring. That's kind of where you're looking at, okay, like if I do get some money, what am I gonna do with it? So some of you might be like saving money for a vehicle, or or a home, your first home. And and then if you're in, like, say, just, I know sometimes with the cost of living, all that stuff, like, fixing your credit rating, and like, oh gosh, like unfortunately I don't have enough money, but my visa's due, and like, or cell phone stuff. So um, that's where, like I say, it's just like, put, if you are getting, monies and so forth, or even just trying to, like, you're not getting anything, just trying to fix, your credit rating and your budgeting and learning how to spend money. I always say, like, use this as example, and I fail at it too. It's like discipline over emotion. It's like, oh yeah, I could buy that. And should I like buy that? Nah, whatever. I can buy that. I can, yeah, whatever. It's life. You only live once, right? But like, that sometimes stress, and it's like they call it the stresses of money. Like, oh, like, and that's kind of where I think, I'd say 90% of society is. It's just like, okay, should I be doing this, doing that? It's like, and that, and again, our monetary system is built that. So so I said, like, just don't feel, I guess, bad about that, because that's like, the real reality. Like, we do need to, like, live, and pay our bills, go for supper, buy, order food, or maybe, especially like these days, like with COVID coming, and it's like everyone's online shopping. It's like, oh, sure, I might as well go, like, buy something else. What can I'm doing, let's say sitting at home. I'm like, I've seen that on TV, so I'm going to go on Amazon. I'm going to maybe order that, or it's like, so just kind of, that's why I say, like, if you have a budget and it's tight, like, discipline over emotion. And I think a lot of times too, even regardless if you have a lot of money or make a lot of money, like, again, the 90% of, high income earners don't save. It's a fact. So yeah, so like I said, I just mostly, this, um, my presence here is not about, hey, like I said, I'm gonna, we can do this with your money and do that with your money. Like, I'm not here to, like, hey, I give me a call, I'm gonna help you. Like, I won't, like, take on any personal clients. I do, mostly corporate work. So, but yeah, so then that's kind of, like I said, just where what's happening now, like, let's say, but like, let's say you get, okay, I'm like, may have this money coming, like with a land claim or something like that. So then I put here, like, what's happening next. So do I have money coming in? What are my plans? Have my plans changed? Because I know things like, even just personally speaking myself, I think like, okay, I should do this. So I think I'm going to go on a trip here. And then it's like, should I or shouldn't I? Or should I just stay home? Like, it's kind of, or what should I pay off? Or should I buy something, a new TV? Do I really need it? It's like, and again, should I invest? What should I invest in? And that's kind of always a thing. And then should I buy a fancy vehicle? It's like, feels good, but yeah, it's like still got to pay for it, right? Um, but yeah, and again, like just again, I'm just my advice to like if you do have questions like should I save money, whether TFSA and kind of do like and even like just one point here, like if you say, okay, I'm just as an example, let's say I got 50,000 or 100,000. I can like, okay, I'm gonna make a plan for 5 years. I'm not gonna like, I'm gonna take half or 40,000 or like, or something and put it in a 5 year GIC just so I know, okay, I got $5,000 down the road, not 5,000 money in 5 years that I've locked away. I can't access it. At least that part of it, like just, like paying yourself, but it's like a kind of a time capsule kind of money, just an idea, especially if you're not used to saving or investing, and again, the good habit is to like pay yourself, like even if you have a savings account or like a TFSA, like you can pay yourself, even just get used to it, like $50 a week, $20 a week. And again, just some ideas of looking at saving money, right? Rather than, like I said, you can get, a large chunk of money and pretty much, you know, just from what people like, oh, I'm gonna buy a $80,000 truck. Like, it's like, okay, so then it's like, oh gosh, like I smashed it or something, like, you know what I mean? It's like, or it's 2 years old, 3 years old, like, oh, now I want another one. So like you gotta have, like I said, just um, make a plan, take some time, think about what you're actually going to do and like look the long haul. Like I always, tell people, look way over the treetops and the mountains, like, because that's where like your life is. And you gotta like take care of yourself, look out for yourself. Because, um, yeah, like I said, just experience wise. And that's why I kind of, if you can see the slide, it's like looking through the darkness and there, hey, there's sun there. So that's kind of where I like, I see a lot of missed opportunity or missed like again the taking care of yourself, like saving your money and just like, sometimes it's like not doing anything is sometimes a good approach or not reacting and having patience. So and again, you can seek financial advice like I said, just I'm not you know like to be honest, I'm not really ever looking for clients. I don't have any really personal clients, maybe like 15 or 20, not many. So I have like a lot of like corporate clients that are in groups, so that's kind of the work that I do. So it's kind of similar, but it's not like, a one-on-one. Like, a lot of times in the industry, I do see like, hey, you got money, come and sign up with me. Like I'll make you rich, like, those that's like that doesn't even exist, right? So just again, that's just me personally speaking. Again, seek financial advice. You can like a bank, someone like that's that you trust, that's not gonna fee you or like, things like that. So that's kind of where say and again, just I'll move forward here. Those are just like I said, there's my roundabout opinions. So I'll just jump into this because like also too, when you're like, you're kind of imagining like, okay, what's going to happen? Those are like all like kind of like things in a cloud, right? Those are my thoughts and ideas. But and then when you're like, oh gosh, like when you walk outside and so anyways, yeah. So this is where what I see in the economy, right? You got a few years ago, COVID, the market crashes and they're like, oh, okay, now we're gonna like put the pressure on you and like kind of like I would say like they're gonna make you pay. So like, because all the COVID um funding that was going out everywhere, right? Like Air Canada was borrowing money, all the organizations or companies were borrowing money, and the government's just like writing checks left and right. It's like, so when they do that, like again, banks and stuff, so like they changed the lending rates, right? So then it's like, oh gosh, so like, everything else goes up. So like mortgages, and then even my point here, the fake inflation, like when you're looking at like your dollar, your buying power. Like I just saw, I think it's Bank of Canada said, oh, inflation is only 1.9%. Yeah, like, are you serious? So like when, yeah, they calculate it, I think it's like milk, eggs, and things like that, like to, oh, how much are those? So like when you go to the grocery store, it's like they've changed a tiny bit, but like you go buy a bottle of pop and a bag of chips, it's like $10, $20. It's like, holy smokes, like it's like I always say, like, yeah, watch the 12-pack case of pop used to be $2.60, and now what is it, like $8? Something like that. So when you look at inflation, that's just like I don't even know. So lettuce hasn't changed, like maybe the price has gone up, but that's how they're kind of, but like I said, it's kind of call it fake inflation. I think inflation is probably like 17, 18% in that ballpark. Because like when you look at like houses even from 10 years, like housing is almost like doubled in price. Like, and again, just that's just an average, I think, at Thunder Bay. It's like at least like you can, like house was 150,000, that's 200 or 300,000, 200,000, 400 is like 500 to a million. It's like, you know, um, and then when you look at the big stressors of, I think, of life, it's like the salaries that are being paid and the wages and stuff you can't keep up, right? Because like it's like even Canada Post being on strike wanting like 2 or 3 or 4% in different pensions and different benefits, right? So that all kind of ties in when you look at what's really inflation. So like I think it was three years ago, the US government and then the Canadian government, I think they gave themselves I think it was around 18, maybe 19 or 21%, like a actual pay raise just to keep up with inflation. That's what they said. So like, then why are they saying inflation is like 1 or 2%? And even at COVID, oh, it's 4%. Yeah, like to me, like I said, just speaking from me, it's like that's not even real because like if they're doing that, so then and again, like workplaces, like every day, your everyday life, like you're not getting a 10-15% raise because that would like okay, that would make you feel like, oh yeah, actually don't feel broke, right? Like, or things are tough. Then also too, when you look at like, benefit plans and things like that, those are like, everyone's like trying to keep the prices low. Like, I mean, some plans, again, just health plans, you get like 300, 500, for paramedics and like, maybe 300 for orthotics or something like that. But when you're looking at dental, it's like maybe 1,500 or 2,000. It's like you go to the dental office, you can burn through that like pretty fast. So that's kind of where when you max that out, it's like, oh my gosh, like I had to go again and got a $800 bill. Is it covered? No, it's because it's maximized, right? So it's like, oh wow. So like now you're stuck with like almost $1,000 bill, but sometimes people don't have the extra $1,000. Like, okay, now I got to slowly pay my dentist off, and just like, oh my gosh, like what can I do? So that's kind of where, like I say, I see things in society, like I said, just things that are happening today. That's kind of so like just again food and things like that. So like I always hear like, okay, what am I doing wrong, when people do ask me for advice or help, and and I hear that a lot, and it's just like I don't make enough money. And so that's kind of where if you're here listening to me, and like I said, do not feel like like that you're alone. Like I'd say probably 90% of people are feeling those things, and it's tough. Like it's really tough out there. And again, just the inflation, like I said, it's eating away. I always say like, probably in three years, maybe four, going to A&W, you can buy two burgers, fries, and a drink. Maybe that's what, $32 or something, 34. And don't be surprised, like in 3 years, maybe that might be like $65. So I just see those trends continuing, like cost of hydro, all that stuff. So like um that's kind of where what I see kind of happening. And then when you are looking at, let's say in your situation, if you are, receiving monies and so forth. So this is kind of, you're going to get your money and you're like, okay, I'm going to enter this world. I already live in it. But it's just like, kind of like I said, maybe just look for some advice and yeah, and kind of like it, get some help and get some ideas and so forth. So anyways, what I was thinking is we can take a break. I'm gonna hit escape here for a second. And I can, like, if anyone has any questions, you can feel free to ask me. So let's see what's oh, someone has a question here. I'm not sure. It says, sorry, what's fake inflation? So can you I think it says Kate. Can you hear me, Kate? Oh, I think I moved my okay. So fake inflation is when, like, because the government, right, they don't want you to think like, oh my gosh, like inflation's like 20%. So imagine if um you took your money, right? It's things going like, so if you took your money you have and you're like, oh gosh, I have, let's say, $10,000, right? And I'm going to photocopy and take 2,000 and photocopy it and make more. So that's, so then I'm going to go out and buy all this stuff. So if everyone did that, right, you're going to have more money. So when inflation, um, because the money's not real, I guess, and then how government says it's fake, like, it's 1 point something percent, but meanwhile, people are charging, like I said, the 35 to $65 a and That's kind of what I say fake inflation is, because they're telling you, they're lying to you and saying it's only 1% or 1.9%. I think the Bank of Canada released yesterday, or no, a couple days ago. So, but at inflation, when you look at the prices of actually, like, again, buying vehicles, buying things, and how much they cost, how much more they cost. So that's kind of where, if you were allowed to photocopy your money, like your $10,000, and make another extra 20%, and almost like, it's probably even, let's say, 15% a year, at least you can keep up to those prices, right? So do you understand what I mean? Like, if you were allowed to, because you're stuck, you can't print more money, but the government can. So they're like just spending, 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 and it causes inflation because they're just putting more. It's like watering down, let's say, I'll just use an example, like if you're drinking vodka, like putting water in it, putting water, next thing you know, it's like, hey, I want to drink some booze, but like this thing's not, doesn't, it's not, there's no effects, because it's like, after you water it down 5 times, like, you won't even taste it, right? So that's kind of what inflation is in that kind of example. Does that make sense? Like, your buying power shrinks. And again, the fake inflation comment was just more, the government should say inflation's 15%, because that's pretty much where it is, what I believe. So, and those are all, like I said, my opinions only. So, does anyone else have any questions? Does everyone still hear me? Okay, I think if that's the questions, I'll continue on here. Let's see if I can, all right. Okay, so this is where, just again, these are um, my, I guess, like, personal things, and again, just as what I do and what I see, and like I said, these are just from myself, right? So again, the dangers of money, like you can look at just some examples. Again, these are like from those who've come to ask for help or advice, along the way in my journey, whether it's just in life in general or just it's not like, okay, you're an advisor. Yeah, it's like, but my whole financial literacy and understanding everything. So these, like I said, I'll just kind of, this is a little bit negative, then I'm going to kind of go to the positive on the next slide. So the dangers and warnings. So what I see, like, money, I always say like money, and again, just me speaking, money can like, you know, it's like you need more to live and be comfortable and like be, kind of like not be stressed, and like, money, again, like people say, oh, if I had this much money, I'll be happy and bought this and that and have no debt. Like, well, it's not necessarily true. Those kind of things you'll always carry in your life. So that won't ever like money doesn't bring you happiness. You could have like, $1 million, billion, like $10 million, like, it just nothing changes, right? I always just say happiness kind of comes from here. So like that's again just my own opinions. You can't, and no vehicle or this or that can make you happy. People make you happy, like just so yeah. Anyways, so the dangers of understanding money. So like interest rates and like term loans, like I said, if you have something that's again, this is like, kind of going back to my other slide, if you have like some, money coming or you don't have money coming. So just understanding interest rates, terms of loans, and understanding like if they're high or so forth, those are like kind of dangers and warning signs. Like, understanding a basic car loan, like, oh, it's only 3 or 4 or 5%, right? Yeah. But it kind of like it's calculated and then it resets, calculated, resets kind of a thing. It's not just like basic math, 5%, 50,000, and there's 2,500 interest. Well, that's total in the first year, but then it calculates it again, calculates it. So like you end up paying more for the vehicle than you're thinking, okay, that's only like, you know, yeah, 5%. That's not much, right? But it's ends up, I don't even know what it would be like 6,000 interest or maybe more. So yeah. So anyways, but that's kind of understanding like when you're looking at like terms of loans, or even like if I need a vehicle, like just an example, um, I have bad credit. No one will give me a loan. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna buy a car from like a used dealership or somewhere. And it's like, okay, we can do the financing, whether it's through like say BMO or RBC or somewhere. And all of a sudden the terms are like, holy smokes, like 14, 15%, 17%. Wow, whatever. Whatever. I just need a vehicle, I'll pay it off. Right. So that's kind of some danger things. Like, and again, then if the vehicle breaks, like, or you smash it, it's like, no, not like you still have the loan. So just be aware of things like that, like the terms, the rates, and like, some of the conditions of when you're borrowing. So then also some dangers of money is just, bad spending habits. I always say like buying things you don't need. You're just like, I want to buy, like, it's an addiction, right? Money, can be an addiction too. It's like, so when you kind of do things, like I said, I'm just going to kind of go through, um, like just life in general, some of the feelings I feel like, oh, okay, like, I spent too much money. Oh gosh, like got sadness, I didn't even need that. Like, oh, I'm okay, yeah, whatever, I'll pay it off. And then you're deflecting like to yourself. So it's more like lying to yourself too, like, oh, I'll pay it off. I'm like, I can afford it, whatever. And then next thing you know, it's like you're just it's almost like one extra little, I don't know, like one extra little weight in your backpack you got to carry, and like it's just dragging you down. Like, because even a story, I'll tell you a personal story. When I was like young, right, I'm like, oh gosh, I gotta, to buy a suit and stuff, right? And I wasn't like, I was working, I'm not gonna like say where, but I was working like one of the organizations. I was like, oh, so I bought a couple suits and like, through work and stuff. He's like, put them on my Visa card. Like, I'm thinking like this is gonna take me like 2 years to pay this off. What they're paying me to answer a phone is like, so I just, when you think about stuff like that, just I was like how much do I make, and making budgets and so forth. So I'm like, oh, did I really need that? Probably not. So that's kind of where I like, thinking like when you're looking at experiences, and sometimes they're like, oh, I'm gonna buy that vehicle, or I'm gonna like do this and that, or even one person like made it asked me a question. He's like, "Oh yeah, so I'm getting let's say X, $50,000 or $60,000." He's like, "I think I'm gonna invest it. I'm gonna like turn it into a couple 100,000." Like that stuff. Like, okay, be careful. Be realistic. Um, and like I said, just more educate yourself. Like don't have this like I'm gonna do this, I gotta do that. So it's like um, be uh, just kind of like, oh, can I like take things like I said just on my previous slide, maybe seek some financial advice, like, through a bank and stuff like that. And just like I said, just patience and time. Yeah. So here's one thing too, like I always say, like when you let's say just kind of stopping or taking a break, and it's like, like let's say you're working and you're like working hard, and then or like and you're saving and you're doing well, and you get this kind of money, and it's like, okay, I'm going to take a break, I'm not going to do all those things like you were doing to like kind of get you to where you are. And if you are like kind of have good and healthy habits, like don't stop those habits, keep those habits going. Like don't like take a break off to the side road and start like eating, I guess, call it fruits of your labor. That's why I put that on there. And just keep progressing forward. Don't like stop what you're doing. And again, just one thing I always say to the next point I put up, it's like buyer's remorse. I'm like thinking sometimes like I could like just speaking myself, it's like, oh, should I have bought that? I'm like, oh, no, well, technically not. I shouldn't have. It's like, oh crap. I'm like, wake up. It's like, oh, well, I don't even know. It could be anything, right? Should I take it back? I'm like, no, I can't because I already used it. So, like I said, just being honest with yourself, being like, again, not the, up on the top, like, being denying like what you're doing, deflecting, and kind of like in like lying to yourself, everything's okay. So that's why I said just like when you're doing or not doing, but when you are dealing with money, there's so much, like it's so much everywhere. It's everywhere in your life. Even when it's almost like it costs you money to like look around and breathe, and like you have to pay for the oxygen, right? Because you are living in this world, like in that socioeconomic like example I explained. So like when you're and again you're faced with a lot of stress, so that's where like you're carrying a lot of pressure every day because it's in the back of your mind, right? I'm not like gotta go to work, gotta go like say hockey, grandkids feeding, food and grocery shopping. It's like you're carrying a lot, right? But you're kind of focusing on your work to like to do all that stuff. So that's kind of where I say just kind of like take a step back and maybe you know um don't care, put so much pressure on yourself, because every like I said, math like stats are like 90% or more, or even more people are in the same situation, right? So when you look around, like don't feel like, oh, I'm just like isolated and I shouldn't do this or I shouldn't buy that, or yeah. So actually one thing too, and like oh sorry, there's another point, like you could lose yourself, right? Just kind of spiraling bad habits, right? Bad habits, like you can just go shopping and like go to Winners, and like sometimes I'm like, oh, should I go look there? Like look for what? I don't even need anything. Maybe I need some spoons, or like something like that, or maybe like it's shoes, or people want to order shoes, or like just kind of like I said, just like life in general, you do have a lot of like habitual things about you, and like I said, just dangers of money is like spending, and kind of stuff like that. So anyways, here's what the another kind of positive side of things, like when you do go through that other side to now to the progression of positiveness. So also too, I forgot to mention at the end, we're doing a prize for a $75, I guess, gift card, and there's going to be a spin the wheel at the end of the presentation. I forgot to mention that. So anyways, so on a positive part, what I would say, and again, this is just advice, from myself, is like if you are in a situation, whether it's just, again, you have money coming or you don't have money, these are some things like even just, well, say myself too, I can say I should need to do all this stuff too. And it's like, have patience, kind of relax, don't like rush and jump things like, I gotta buy it. I'm gonna go buy this. I'm gonna go buy that. Like even just in general, I mean, like, I'm gonna pay for it? I'll just put it on my credit card. Like, okay, then I'm gonna like, oh crap, I didn't really need that, right? So that's kind of where just, my advice is have patience, don't rush things. And again, if you are getting like, okay, I'm getting money here. I don't know how much I'm getting, but I'm getting something, make a budget, make a plan. Like maybe one day you see the plan, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna like throw that in the garbage. Because I've done this too. Like sometimes my plans are like I make a plan. I was looking at my notes, just like the next, like, let's say this was like 6, 8 months ago. I looked at my notes. I'm like thinking just what I'm gonna do with myself and stuff. And I'm like, I was like X them all off. I think there's only 3 things I told myself, okay, follow this and do this and this. And like almost like 7 of them weren't even like um yeah, didn't even happen. So it's like broke my own rules. So yeah, and again, just when as people, right, we're all like, we gotta keep busy, we gotta do this, we gotta like, there's so much kind of going on. So I think um some healthy habits, whether you have money, don't have money, it's like kind of don't like lose yourself. Just, again, just healthy habits, diets, exercise, and walking, go for drives and be with nature. And, when you look at the world and life itself, one time is years ago, I was with my daughter and we're sitting like on a pier and by the ocean, and we're just sitting there watching the waves, like kind of like, and I had told her like, like piece of advice in life, like, everything where the ocean is real. Everything over here, if you're looking at money, economies, this, that, all that stuff is like all make believe. Like, it's like it's kind of sometimes it just, I don't know, like, what I'm saying? So that's kind of where it's so like it's, you separate the real world and like, and kind of the fake stuff, like all the stuff they have on TV, all the ads, all of this, all of that. It's like, you kind of, yeah, you know what I mean? Just so that's kind of where I say, like for me, myself, I like going for walks and just sitting down and even just crouching down and doing nothing, watching my dog and stuff. So, but yeah, so moving on forward, like we'll just say like let's say if I had like some like money coming to me, you can look at, okay, I need to look at what are my, again back to the dangerous things, um loans, high interest loans. Like sometimes people do fall short and they do get a, a payday loan, or it's like, oh gosh, like I'm just crying, like I can't make it, like I have kids and just families, like, so if you are getting in that money and you're in that situation, pay those loans off, pay your credit cards off, because those are probably like 20 something percent, 18%. And just look at kind of like filling, or kind of like, I guess you'd say, get to um I guess get to, I don't know, even par, I guess I'd use a golf term. So, and then you can look at, okay, maybe I can look at again, one thing I always like hear or get advice from is like, okay, what should I do? I want to buy a house or a vehicle, but my credit sucks. So just to let you know, like one of the biggest, I don't know what you'd say, one of the biggest, I don't even know, dangers out there is like cell phone bills. Like if you don't pay your cell phone bill, like it's like they, there's like, I think it's called an L3 where they, like, if you're late 30 days, they'll like report you to the credit place and then like the credit bureau, and then you're late 60, like the cell phone bills pretty much I see like have ruined a lot of people's credit. So, and sometimes utilities as well. Usually Visa, MasterCard, so like they're usually fairly good. They don't like, poke holes and, knock your feet out from under you, but with credit issues. So like, if you are in that situation, just realize, understand, okay, if I pay half my cell phone bill or like it's still gonna be late. So like then you're looking at getting financing down the road. Like again, maybe you want to buy your first home or buy a vehicle or a new vehicle or do something. And that's kind of where those dangers are. So if you're like, oh my, let's say you apply for a new vehicle or a approved mortgage, and like, oh, we gotta fix this and that because your credit's kind of little like not that strong. So like just be aware like cell phone bills and some utility companies will kind of wreck your credit. So yeah, so that's kind of like I said, just be very aware of that and be careful. So also too, like one example I looked or I mentioned is like when you're looking at like again, money, life, everything, it's like it's gonna like you need money. It's like you need oxygen to breathe, right? Money is just it's become such a controlling part of our lives. It like, you know, it's not like, hey, I come to work for a hobby. Like, sometimes too, it's like, oh, I can't stand working here, but I gotta stay here. It's like, just so I say, I understand those stresses, um, but like I said, just that's how money really controls us every day and like even just around us. It's just like I say, a stressor. So that's why I say like, take a break from that life and kind of, go for a walk, exercise and do things like that are between, from you and nature. So that's why I say like that's kind of why I was, say that's super important to you. And then also too, when you look down the road, making like a long term plan, like with your dollars. I thought in a previous slide I mentioned like maybe go to the bank, get a 5-year GIC or start saving. Um, but again, first thing, pay all your debts off, pay all that stuff off because the interest rate, like maybe you get cleaned out and you spent all your money on your debts, right? But that's not a bad thing because you're still, because otherwise you're going to be paying these high interest loans or credit cards and stuff like that. So that's kind of don't like I said, then you're gonna feel like I'm broke. But you know what? It just you try to create good habits moving forward. And but yeah, so like I said, just make a plan. Like you can make 10 plans. So like I said, just I think it's just, look at what you're planning on doing, budgeting and so forth with yourself. So then the next one too, I always say like, discipline over emotion, look at like what your plan is. And it's like, sometimes like people are like, oh, I'm gonna go on a trip and they go on a trip and it's like kind of spent like went to Europe and spent like $10,000. I'm like, okay, so like, but it just that's what I'm saying. It's just like what should you really be doing? Should you just like, oh, I'm just gonna emotionally like buy this, buy that? So that's kind of like I say, just it's kind of stay on make up game plan and kind of look to it and see what you can follow it. Because like I said, you can easily get derailed pretty fast when even if you have money or don't have money, it's like the credit is very easy to use. And like I said, just be honest and, take some self-care, take care of yourself. So, um, let's see here. So yeah, I said like this is pretty much um, some, I guess like some closing comments. We're at the end of the presentation here and I guess like what I why, like you said, just, coming here and being a guest. I appreciate you inviting me, and a lot of I don't know how to round or to kind of put a closure together here of like, it's just more of, like my personal advice would be, don't feel like you're by yourself, or, or it's like, again, that you're not like, what am I doing wrong? Why am I in this situation? Or like, oh, okay, I'm glad I'm getting this money. It's like I can pay this off, I can do this, I can, and get a vehicle. And it just, everyone is in the same boat. So don't feel like you are, like I said, doing anything wrong, or you're alone. Like I say, like, I think the stats for like retiring, or you know and so forth, it's like, I think it's like 95 or 93% of people can't afford to retire, and maybe there's like 5 or 6% that can retire, like with like, let's say, because it's, and again, it's all based on pensions, right? And you have like teachers' pension, and they're like, you work there and for so many years and you pay into it. It's just a pool of money, right? And so they just, you know, people joining, people leaving, like those plans are there, and that's how people are fortunate enough to retire. And there, I think that's like in Canada, I think it's like around maybe 1% of people that can retire on their own, like just from savings and so forth. So that's, like I say, so like I said, just being in that, you know, being part of that 90%. So don't feel like, oh, I'm gonna retire, but you're like kind of like, well, um, it's tough. Like, I'm being honest with you, it's tough too, because like I said, it just, the math and the structure of pension plans, and like, I'll use an example of one like CNRL, right? So they had pension plans where like it's a defined benefit. You work there for, I don't know, 35 years or something. And then, okay, I can retire and I'm going to get X amount, because it's technically at the time it was a government created pension plan, but, or a company. And then it got like kind of privatized and sold. Um, so now today, if you like were employed at CN, they don't offer you that type of plan anymore. They offer you the individual investment plan. So it's like, I don't have a prop here, but it's like if you have a cup of water, and like a lot of the group insurance plan or group pension plans that companies have, they're just like, okay, here's your glass of water. We're like putting 5%, you're getting 5%. So then when you leave, here's your cup. Okay, we'll see ya. Like, so there's no financial obligation by the corporations or companies, or, places you work at to like, fund you or pay you, or even part of those plans. So those are, like I say, are shrinking. They're very few and far between to like find one. So that's kind of something, the current status of the economy. So like I said, just it's yeah, I think but yeah, like I said, just when you're looking at money, life and so forth, it just, I would just, again, my closing comments would be just, don't over stress. A lot of times it's like I say, I'm gonna say, like, it's out of your control. Things are, it's like walking into, like I said, you're, walking into an economy that's like high inflation. Everything's gonna cost so much, and like your salary's like kind of getting sabotaged because you're not getting paid like an extra 10% a year, right? So that's kind of where, if that fake inflation makes sense, it's like if we were allowed to get paid 10% more a year, like we wouldn't be like scratching your head or like, oh crap, I'm like, I don't have enough money for my cell or phone, or I want to order food, and like, oh, just kind of things like that. So that's kind of where um I see things. And like I said, I don't know if anyone has questions, because let's see, I don't know. Oh, here. Okay. I have a question here. Oh, okay. I'll take the easy question first. Kim has a question on co-signing. So like, let's say if um I don't know. Let's say if, well, I'll just use my nephew. So let's say he buys a vehicle or something, or wants to buy a vehicle, doesn't have any credit, or like, because he's young. So if I co-sign a vehicle, like, I'm responsible for it. So if he doesn't pay it, I'm gonna pay it. So let's say things I've seen happen, and let's say, I'll just use an example. Let's say, and this is an example from him. It's like, I just, so an example, like someone asked me, like, what if, again, this happens, and like I co-sign a loan for this person, and they smashed a vehicle, and it's not covered through insurance. I'm like, well, you have to pay for the vehicle still. I'm like, what? Because it's like, but then the kid walks away. It's like, I'm not paying that. Like, so then now the uncle had to pay it. So I'm like, in this another case too, a grandmother had to pay the vehicle off, like, even though it was like destroyed. So that's kind of where you like co-signing, or even lending someone your vehicle as an example. Like, and this is just something, I believe I'm going to speak to this correctly. So let's say, if I'll just use Kim as an example, if we'll just say, if I said, hey, Kim, can I borrow your vehicle? And let's say I have a license, right? But if I have no insurance in my name, like an actual insurance policy, because if I smash her vehicle, my insurance will come with me. But if I don't have insurance, her insurance is gonna, like, why'd you lend him your car? And I smashed it. So that's kind of where, um, just an example, just like, again, a piece of advice, like, be aware of that. Like, you can't just lend someone your vehicle, and like, unless they have a, insurance, like they're insured, have their own insurance to take with them. So just, okay. And then I'll go to Kate, your question here. What does it say here? To Oh, here it is. Okay, so I have a DB plan, but also I'm an entrepreneur. Oddly enough, I share. Okay, yeah. So you're mentioning you have a DB plan, like a defined benefit plan, where it's like, where you're gonna, example, it's like the CN Rail one, where you work there 35 years and you get like money every month. So it's like, it just comes automatically. So it's kind of like a pension comes up, like, you do, well, like, for community members, your question, to help them with, again, just retirement. So when you're looking at, let's say, if there's First Nation organization, then they work for the First Nation, and they're like, have a pension plan. They'll like have this little, like, kind of a glass cup of money. They'll have their CPP. They'll probably have their old age pension. So when you look at that side of, like, the retirement side, it's very, very tough. Like I said, you just try and do the best you can. Like, like I said, just in some communities too, like when I, go to the general store, it's like, he's like, I think pop, $25, or toilet paper, 25, $30. It just, like I said, it's that socioeconomic, I guess, the that in the community, it's insanely priced. It's like, wow, like, just for the freight and the air and all that. So that's kind of where it's really, really tough. And again, when you look at asking me about like, what can you do? It's like, you can do your best, like I say, just have a pension plan, if they're, wanting to get one or don't have one or have one, you're looking at, I have that cup of money, that's like my cash I can take out. But like on, like actually getting pension plan, there's CPP if they're paying into that, or old age security. I think there's possibly another guaranteed income supplement they can apply for as well, that kind of will top them up. But like I say, it's really really tough, like when you are with your question, like with the First Nation community members, of what's there, right? um yeah, it just, like I said, like that's all you can kind of do. Because again, regardless of how much money you have, like, you know, the cost of living in the community is pretty high, especially when you're buying, milk, eggs, meat, things like that. So, um, let's see what else we got here. Okay. Oh, yes, another question. So like, yeah, so this is where like your question here is like I don't know if she left. Kate, like dealing with she might have left. Okay. But anyways, a person had a question in regards to like talking about, RSPs and TFSAs. RSPs like are only good like if you pay tax. So the whole thing, like with an RSP, just kind of, so like even you can say RSP, your pension plan on your T4, like when you, let's say, work in an organization and you get 5% and the company gives you 5%, so you put 10% of your income away. That's like a pension plan. It's kind of the same thing. It's like you're saving money, but it's just a different product, right? Different cups, I call them different cups. So when you have an RSP, it's over here. So like you can just put it in and it's a tax deduction too. The whole kind of the game of the government is like they have all these cups and products where you can use it as a tax deduction. And then, so now they created the TFSA to allow you to put money into savings plan and it's tax free because um I don't know, probably like 15 years ago, people stopped buying RSPs because of the cost of living so high. So like, oh, and you have to pay taxes, sure, you get a tax break, but then when you take the money out, you have to pay the taxes back. So it's like, what's, in some ways, unless you're like making like 10 times in your money, then it's worth it. So um, so that's kind of the thing about them. So you put money in them, you get a tax break. You don't pay that much tax, but when you take it out later, the whole idea is like, oh yeah, I have RSPs. I don't need that much, to live on. Yeah, if inflation was zero and prices never changed in 30, 40 years, then that's a fine. That's okay. But I mean, like if a 12 pack of pop was still $2.50, that's okay. So but it's not. And if a nice truck was 45,000, that's awesome, but it's not. So that's where when you look at these products, RSPs are created, to for you to save money and take it out later. But in thinking I'm going to take out only a little bit, but now people are taking them all out because they don't have enough money to live on because prices have doubled, right? So then now they're thinking, oh gosh, I need twice as much money. So that's kind of where sometimes that the RSP product was created. But so then they created TFSAs because people are like, why would I put money into something that I'm going to pay the taxes on later? So that's why the government created TFSAs. So then it allows you to invest tax-free, and whether you're status or non-status, you can buy an RSP and put that away. So, and then you can take it out. And then also too, when you look at the whole grand scheme of everything, like all the pensions, whether it's a government pension or teacher's pension, all the TFSAs, the RSPs, all the products, um, the government puts there to like, that are part of the program, because, and then it gets invested into the Canadian economy, right? So that kind of like, they look at, hey, invest. And again, like, it's about, putting money into the financial system. So when you look at, these land claims, right, which I always kind of find interesting, because conditions for, I don't know, I just know of some of the old ones, like conditions from the government are like, you have to save this, and it's like part of, like, it's still invested, and they'll give you the money, but you gotta, you give money to the people, and then they spend it, right? So it's like, okay, the economy is growing. Then the other part is like, okay, now you got to give it to the banks. So they're going to invest that for you. So it's kind of like the economy is growing. So it's like almost like they're just sprinkling, even though it doesn't, like, there's nothing, like the money they give you, it doesn't leave, the system, the country, right? You're putting it back in. It kind of just, I don't even know how to, like, it goes through you, but where does it go? It ends up back into the system, right? If that makes sense. So like when you look at, it's not like, okay, I bought this phone, I I'm taking it out of circulation and I'm keeping it. So that's kind of where like when you're looking at an economy, that's kind of where all that kind of fits in, is like the government does all this stuff, and but it again, it's just putting more money into the system, and especially like, I think, some of the land claims are like in the, total in billions, I think. And I don't know the whole number. I don't know anything really much about it. So then when you look at the government, they're just like, they don't have that money. So they're just taking it a photocopier and printing it, right? Um, so that's kind of where, and like I say, probably in 3 to 5 years, you're going to see the effects of inflation again, right? So yeah, I'm not sure if anyone else has any questions, but it is, like I say, my experience in working with some First Nation communities, it is very hard when you're talking about financial planning and retiring, because there is no like money to put away, because like most of the, the elders and the, Kookums and Chumishes, I know, like they're not, you know, they don't have much, like there's no industry. Yeah, it's really, really tough. And like I said, I feel bad when I see like the prices when I'm up north and remote communities, of how much things cost. So it's very difficult. And to the question I'm speaking to, it is yeah, it's you're kind of stuck. It's like I said, it's I think it's like 90 something percent of, or even more, right? People can't afford to retire because, just like I said, you can't keep up with the inflation. It's way, way too high. And you can't even, most can't save money too, because they're, just getting paid what they're getting paid. But when yeah, it's pretty tough, like I say. Does anyone have any questions, or can, okay. All right, thanks. I think that would conclude it. Um, and then I have to do the spin wheel here, I think. I don't know how to. Can't see whose name this is. I don't even know if she's here. Is Glenda here? I don't think so, right? No. Okay, so I'll remove, and then spin again.
Hi, Albert. I think I'll share my screen and I'll do the spin wheel.
Okay.
It's an updated list.
That's acceptable.
Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yeah, I could see it.
Okay, I'll spin the wheel now.
Okay.
Good luck, everyone. So it's Marlene.
Is she here? Oh yeah.
She is. Congratulations, Marlene. We'll send you an email shortly with your e-gift card, and you can choose which gift card you would be interested. It would be a link to Amazon. And I would like to thank everyone for attending the webinar. Albert, you can go ahead and give your closing.
Okay, yeah. So anyways, like, thank you. I know it's like a lot to kind of compress and talk about. Like I said, I just kind of came here to like give you, some of my, my experiences, it's, for more speaking for me personally, and, not here to like, okay, I give you products, and I'm not here to sell you anything. Even like I said, it just, again, just all my experiences and things I see. And like I said, I'm just here to help and give some, some logical advice, and also to just share, some things that I've like felt and gone through, and like, through my life, through like, having money, working, and like starting off as a, student, and like scratching my head, like, oh gosh, like, answering phones. It's like, um, and like, even just starting when I was young is like, okay, I want to, find a job, and like, hey, like, give me a mop or a broom. I just want to be a part of something, right? So, that's kind of how I started. Like, I'll do anything, just, yeah, and learn anything. And like I said, it's just, I think through life itself is just about like, learning more, and and again, just kind of taking it easy. Don't rush and judge, or no, jump to things. And but yeah, other than that, thank you, I appreciate it. And yeah, I hope my like I said, just my, my background and some of the things I shared, do make you think, and maybe, give you some advice. And like I said, even if it's just like, I think, say if it's like, it helps, one person, at least I kind of gave some pointers and help to one person. So, all right. Anyways, I appreciate it, and thank you very much. Okay, take care.